Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Happier Life podcast. I'm your host, Claire Deacon. After deciding survival wasn't enough, I set out on a path to live my best life. I wanted to thrive. Now I'm on a mission to support others. Think you're not good enough, confident enough, brave enough? I'm here to tell you you are, and you can achieve anything. This is your time, so let's do this. Hello and welcome to the Happier Life podcast, where we talk about life beyond survival, because let's be real, you weren't meant to just cope your way through this life. I'm Claire Deacon, your host, positive psychology coach, therapist, and a very human reminder that it's okay not to be who you once were. So today we're diving into a question that can feel heavy and confusing and even a little bit terrifying. Who am I now? Because when you've been through trauma, whether it's grief, burnout, the end of a relationship, or simply the slow erosion of yourself while tending to everyone else, it doesn't just shift your circumstances, it can shake your identity. It stirs everything you thought you knew about yourself. The version of you before might have felt more confident, more certain, more clear, more adventurous on where she was going. And now you might look in that mirror and barely recognize yourself. You might feel like you've woken up in someone else's life, like you've landed in unfamiliar territory with no map, no compass, and a deep ache for something that feels like home. And I want you to know that having these feelings doesn't mean that you are broken for feeling that way. In fact, for many people I work with, this moment, this questioning of self and identity is the very reason they reach out. Now, sometimes it's triggered by a sudden change, a bereavement, a breakup, redundancy. Other times it's less dramatic, but just as unsettling. Children leaving home, a career path that doesn't quite fit anymore, and that quiet ache of wondering, is this all there is? And for those who arrive at this place after trauma, it can feel like the ground beneath you has completely given way. Everything feels uncertain. Like you no longer know who you are without the role that you played, the relationship that you had, or the identity that you had clung onto in order to survive. But here's what I want you to hear in this moment and in this episode. This isn't the beginning of some kind of breakdown. It's the beginning of your breakthrough. It's your first sign of spring, if you like, a quiet, sacred invitation for you to bloom again in a way that's more honest, more grounded, more you than ever before. So if you've ever whispered to yourself, where did I go? This episode is for you. We're going to explore why trauma affects your sense of self, including life, really, how to stop grieving the old you and start reconnecting with the new one. We're going to look at what it means to rediscover your values, your passion, and your purpose, even if they look completely different now to what they once did. So, take a deep breath. You haven't lost yourself. You're just coming home in a new way. So let's talk about it. So why does your identity shift after time and struggle? So let's begin with this. You don't have to have lived through a dramatic, life-altering trauma to feel like you've lost yourself. Sometimes it's the slow accumulation of stress, the quiet grief of unmet expectations, an exhaustion of being everything to everyone else but to yourself. Because Life has a way of pulling us away from who we are. Maybe it was for a season where you had to be strong for someone else. Maybe you spent so long surviving that you forgot how to live. Or maybe something happened, a loss, a change, a moment where the ground beneath you really shifted. And suddenly that version of you that once made sense just doesn't anymore. And here's the thing, this doesn't mean you're broken, you're weak, or a failure. It means that your mind and your body are doing exactly what they were designed to do. They're designed to adapt, to manage your energy, to focus where you need to be. You become who you need to be in order to be safe, to get through, to remain part of your community, to remain part of that group. You shape yourself ready for survival. You focus on keeping the peace and staying safe and holding it all together. But when we live like that for too long, you can begin to stop trusting your own voice. You stop doing the things that once lit you up because they feel pointless or distant or selfish. You become who the world needs you to be, and you forget who you were before the world told you who it wanted you to be. And after a while, you look in the mirror and you wonder, where did I go? If that hits home, I want you to know this. You're not lost. You're not behind. You are becoming. Your sense of self didn't vanish. It's been waiting for the storm to pass long enough for you to feel safe enough so that you can really bloom and rise again. You don't need to go back to who you were. You get to become who you really are. And maybe for some of you, will be for the first time. So, rediscovering who you are. Let's talk about the discomfort of not quite recognizing yourself anymore. You might find yourself thinking about the old you, the version of you who felt lighter or more hopeful, more carefree, the one who didn't second guess everything or feel so fragmented. And yes, it's okay to miss her. She was real. She kept you safe. She mattered and she carried you through a lot. But here's what often gets missed. That version of you wasn't the whole you. He was shaped by circumstance, by survival, and sometimes by what others' expectations were and what was needed from you more than what you truly needed yourself. So maybe this part of your healing isn't about letting go of her or grieving her entirely. Maybe it's about reclaiming the pieces of her that still fit, whilst making space for new ones that reflect who you are now. Because this isn't about going backwards, it's about choosing forwards with intention. It's about asking, who do I want to be now? With all the wisdom I've learned, what stays and what goes, what gets to evolve. And yes, that takes courage. It takes self-trust, self-compassion, and a willingness to sit in the unknown for a while. But the truth is, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience, from strength, from clarity. And maybe, just maybe, the you that's emerging now. She's the most honest and powerful version yet. So, how do you start reclaiming yourself? How do you begin to feel like you again? When life has left you altered in ways you didn't choose, how do you rebuild your sense of self, not from scratch, but from the pieces you're gently gathering, parts that still feel true? So, this isn't going to be a checklist. It's not a 5-step formula. This is about reconnection to yourself, to your values, to your voice, and to the life that's waiting for you now. So let's walk through it together of the types of things that you can explore to be able to find those pieces. So, first of all, reconnecting with what truly matters to you. When life cracks us open, it often reshuffles what feels important. Maybe things that used to drive you no longer hold the same weight or value. Maybe you've started to see through old roles, old expectations, old definitions of success, and wondering what's actually yours and what are those things that you have taken on board and owned as part of yourself, but really they belonged to someone else. So instead of trying to go back to the version of who you once knew, ask yourself what you really care about now and what do you value? Not because of something you were told or because the expectation of those around you, but because it feels really true to you, that instinct. Let's reconnect to where that instinct sits in you and start to trust her again. What feels like it fits and what feels like it no longer fits. This is the beginning of alignment. Maybe you used to chase approval and now you just crave peace and calm. Maybe you used to fill every minute with doing, and now you're learning the art of simply being. Maybe your identity used to be built around helping others, and now you realize it's your turn to receive. This isn't selfish, this is really sacred. This is you reclaiming your right to choose what matters. Now, from this way forward, this is how you build that version of you. So, really, you need to follow those breadcrumbs, that sense of aliveness. Trauma can dull your connection with joy. It can convince you that it's safer not to feel too much, not to hope too hard, and not to reach too far. Often we have this feeling when we've experienced heartbreak, we're never going to fall in love again, we're never going to be in a relationship again, it's too hard. But one the things that you once loved may not feel the same anymore, and that's okay. It's part of a process of rediscovery, of you looking at those things with some gentle curiosity of when do I feel a flicker of interest? Am I ready to give up those things, or do I want to take them forward? What makes you lose track of time, even just a little bit? Where do you get absorbed and engrossed into activities? Where do you find the most pleasure in whose company? And what activities are you doing? And if you don't know yet, that's okay. Most of my clients will probably tell you that we've come to this point at some part of their journey. Well, I'll explain. It's like putting together the pieces of a jigsaw, and we don't necessarily have the box. We don't know what picture's on it, and we have to trust in our judgment to bring those pieces together and allow that picture to evolve. So sometimes joy doesn't just come rushing back. Sometimes it arrives in small whispers, in half remembered longings, in the tiniest of pull towards something new. Let yourself follow those breadcrumbs. Let yourself try. You are allowed to evolve and you are allowed to test and trial different things. So the next part is about taking the mask off, even just a little. And I've done a previous episode all around the masks that we wear. So if you've been hiding parts of yourself, shrinking, editing, performing, you aren't alone. That mask was there for a reason. It protected you when you needed it to. But what once protected you may now actually be what's keeping you disconnected. So ask yourself, where am I still shape shifting to make others comfortable? What parts of me have I hidden away? Who gets to see the unfiltered version of me? And how can I let more of her out into the light? You don't have to rip off that mask all at once. That's not what we're about. We do things safely, in a way that manages our nervous system. We start with small moments. Start with yourself. Each time you let your truth be seen, you send a message to your nervous system to learn that it's safe to be you. Authenticity isn't about being loud and doing some whole new arrival of some great makeover. It's about being real, and there's nothing more powerful than that. So take it step by step. The next part of this is about choosing who you want to be next. This might be the most freeing part of all because you get to choose. And this time round, you're choosing that based on the wisdom and knowledge experience that you've had. And as clear as there may be things that you really aspire towards, you'll also know that there's a whole host of things that you know you do not want to be a part of. So this is not based on what others need from you or others expect of you. This is a version of you that you get to create. It's based on who you want to become now with all that wisdom, all that strength, resilience, the self-awareness that you've earned. So ask, who am I when I'm not performing? What kind of life do I want to build? Not perfectly, but intentionally. Who do I want to grow into from here? You don't need to have all of the answers. You just need a starting point and a willingness to ask the questions and the courage, really, to keep listening to yourself. Because this isn't about finding yourself as though you were ever truly lost. This is about coming home to yourself one choice at a time. Reclaiming your identity isn't about going back, it's about becoming. It's about peeling back those layers, taking off those things that no longer fit, and rediscovering the parts of you that feel true. As I've spoken about many times, my book is called Blooming Happier. It's about lifting those layers of opening up so that you can really bloom. So it's about putting what you've learned, what you value, and what you're ready to create moving forward. So let this be your reminder. You don't need to return to the former version of yourself. You get to choose who you want to become now. You're not broken. You are becoming. You haven't lost yourself. You're uncovering those deep layers. You're never gone, only quiet. This isn't about fixing. It's about remembering, reconnecting, reclaiming, and rediscovering. And if you're ready to take that next step to explore this new version of you, and you need some support and some compassion, I'd love to walk along that journey with you. So book a free chat with me, happiercoach.com/chat, or send me an email, claire@happiercoach.com. So until next time, be kind to yourself. You are not starting from scratch. You are starting from wisdom. If you've enjoyed this episode, ensure you hit subscribe, head on over to my website, happiercoach.com, sign up for the weekly newsletter, and let me support you in living a happier life. I'm your host, Claire Deacon. Thank you for listening. Have a fabulous day.